I've spoken to over 350 agency owners now, and at some point, most of these owners hit a wall between about $500,000 and $1 million in revenue. That ceiling, that thing that stops them from growing, it's not their team, it's not their clients, not their pipeline, it's not even their systems, it's them. And that's a very hard thing for a lot of those owners to hear. So in this video, I'm going to give you some brutally honest advice about what you need to hear if you are in that boat. If your agency is struggling to grow beyond a certain point, the blocker may well be you as the owner. And I'm going to take you through a few key things that will help you break through that ceiling. So here's the pattern I see almost every time I speak to an agency owner that's doing somewhere between $500,000 and $1 million a year in annual revenue. They've got the revenue growing every year almost. They've built out a small team. They're working with some really interesting and great clients. Everything seems rosy. But at some point, the growth stops. At some point, the profitability declines or stagnates. And the owner's left scratching their head. I've done all the right things. I've read the books. I've followed the advice on the internet, but I'm stuck. Why is it? It's more often than not because everything still flows through them. And that's a real problem for any business, particularly in an agency. It seems to be a real sticking point in this range that we're talking about. Every client issue comes back to them. Every hiring decision is down to them. Every opportunity, commercial side of things, always comes back to them. They're not operating like a CEO. They are a blocker. They are slowing things down, and it's a real problem. If anything, a lot of these agency owners at this stage almost begin acting like glorified freelancers with a couple of friends around them. And that's quite blunt, but it's the truth. And the thing that a lot of these owners really, really struggle to hear is that what got them to a certain point, let's say $500,000 in revenue, is not going to be the thing that gets them to 1, 2, 3, 4 million plus. It's them. It's how they're functioning. It's not that you need to work harder as an owner. You need to build a business that can work without you at the center of it. And that for a lot of people is a very big shift. So let's break down what I think, from speaking to 350 agency owners and working one-to-one with over 40 of them now, needs to change. So the first observation I'd make here with an owner that is currently blocking their own agency's growth is that it ultimately will come down to their inability to let go of certain functions or certain pieces of the agency. Whatever size it's at now, they're trying to function like they did when it was just them. So they're doing everything, or they're involved in everything, or the owner has visibility on too much. And as a consequence of that, they end up involved in essentially decisions, actions, and really anything in between. They've built out a small team for a reason. The team is there to support them and own certain parts of the agency. So the owner has to let go of those areas. I'm not saying forget about those areas. I'm saying simply give people that you've hired the responsibility and ownership over them. So if the problem is letting go and a lack of ownership, the solution is to put in place a simple structure that gives people the freedom and the autonomy to lead certain areas of your agency and handle certain things for you, and also have a simple means through which you can keep an eye as an owner on what is going on, ultimately be kept up to speed as to what is happening. You're also there to support these people. So let's just say you've got a team of about 6 or 7. You probably have somewhat of a senior person involved in client management. Maybe it's account management or whatever it is. But fundamentally, that person should be empowered to and able to have the room and space to make decisions pertaining to things relating to clients. Great. If they have to divert every client decision to you, you may as well not have them. What's the point? So, what do? 1, make it very clear to that person what you expect from them and what you need from them. It's as simple as that. Like, what is your role? Secondly, be really clear about what you're not going to do. It's the same thing, but just explicitly saying, I, the owner, am no longer going to do client calls, or I, the owner, am no longer going to submit X work to clients. It's about being clear to the account manager and for yourself as an owner as to what you're doing and what you're not doing and what you expect from them. Instead of delegating tasks or delegating little things, you're delegating decision power. You're delegating outcomes to certain people in your business. That gives them the ownership over something that should be happening or will happen within the business, not just giving them a to-do list. That's a big difference. The second observation I'd make when I look at agency owners who are maybe a bit stuck in their own business is that a lot of the times it's simply that they just don't have any systems. There are no processes, or there's no core way for this agency to function without the owner. And in practice, that often looks like something whereby decisions come back to the owner, approvals come back to the owner, ultimately anything of importance, or even in a lot of cases, no importance whatsoever, goes through the owner, or the owner can see it happening day to day. For the owner, that means distraction and generally frustration. But for the team, it really just means they don't have any confidence in their own ability. They feel like they're constantly being watched, or there's probably a layer of, is he micromanaging me, or are they micromanaging me here? I've alluded to it previously in other videos, but you don't need that many systems. Most small agencies can begin to build out their operating system by focusing on 2 or 3 key components to their business. For example, core service delivery. Do you have a system built around that? Or are people just doing things at their own will or as they have the time? It's a huge difference. And truthfully, if we take that as a specific example for a second, getting the owner out of service delivery requires you to have a system that does not have the owner involved at any stage. If the owner is involved, that's okay. Make it super clear where and when and why they're needed. But ideally, the owner isn't, if you have the people in place to do that. So in this case, if the problem is simply that the owner is involved in too many things, the solution is to build systems that do not rely on the owner being involved. So if my second observation related to systems and the importance of them, the third definitely relates to people. People and process, in my mind, go hand in hand. These 2 components to any agency are the key element that allows the owner to actually step out. So as I mentioned in the first point, the idea of the owner delegating and letting go, they're going to struggle to do that without good systems and good people. If the problem is that the owner doesn't have the confidence to step out, then the solution is getting right people to step in and almost take over parts of the owner so that they don't have to be everything. Hiring people is not easy. I think it's probably one of the trickier things for a first-time agency owner to actually do. What I would say also is that finding a good person is very different to actually having a great person in your agency. And what I mean by that is we can find people in a matter of months, but it's not until 3, 4, 5 months after them being in the agency where we really know if they're going to be a great fit for us long term or not. So the hiring process can be lengthy, it can be challenging, it can be expensive, but it's one of those things that's so important. We're going to invest the time in it regardless. There are always options for hiring too. You don't have to hire full time. You can go for freelance options, contract options. You don't have to hire in person now. Obviously, remote working is a huge piece of the working environment, but fundamentally we want to find the right people in whatever capacity it is. Alongside hiring, there's obviously an important understanding of financials, because as I alluded to earlier, around 60 to 80% of your costs or outgoings are going to be relating to people once you start building out a team. So understanding what's coming in, what's going out, your cash flow, etc. It's a really important piece to this. But again, and to enable the owner to step out and step away from certain things, you need to have good people to step in. Reason number 4 why a lot of agency owners end up stuck at a certain stage and blocking their own growth ultimately comes back to the clients that are part of the agency. So whenever an agency gets to a certain stage, let's say they're doing just shy of $1 million a year in revenue, that's great. However, there's usually a challenge here. Commercially, the owner has been in control of everything. They've brought in all the clients, they've won all the deals, they likely have most of the meaningful relationships with clients. So they are very much a go-to person, and they're the person that a lot of brands will have invested in. They wouldn't have invested in the agency or the team because it maybe didn't even exist when they first joined. In this scenario, the owner has to really carefully think about what clients are right for them and what clients aren't. That is going to inform how the agency scales in the future. And what I mean by that is ultimately the clients that are won in the early days are often not the right clients or not ideal clients for the agency as it matures. For example, it could be as basic as pricing. There's going to be clients that are on a very different pricing model today to what new clients come in the door are. So the 5th point here really comes down to the owner and their mindset. What I mean by that is ultimately the owner is going from a place of being a doer. They roll up their sleeves and get involved in everything to make anything happen to grow their business, to being an operator. That is a big shift in terms of their mindset. As a person, you're going from a place of having complete control, knowing everything about anything that is happening in your agency, to really only knowing about certain key things at certain times. And within that, you're not involved in things day to day. You're in fact well out of it. You don't really know the finer details of what's going on at times. And that for a lot of people can be a big move. But if I told you that's going to help you grow, if I told you that's going to help you operate in a more sustainable way within your own business, would you do it? So if the problem, again, is that an owner is blocking their own agency's growth because they can't handle the fact that they're not at the center of things, then the solution is to get the right people around them, win and work with the right clients, build the systems that the business can rely on and function on, and ultimately the owner get into a place where they can delegate decisions, delegate outcomes, and be comfortable letting others help them build their business, not just relying on themselves to do absolutely everything and having the agency reliant on them to deliver absolutely everything. So it's a big shift. It's not easy, but it's going to help you move on to the next stage of growth that you so desire. So to wrap all this up, you can really choose one of two things. Keep going as you are, keep being the bottleneck, keep owning so much of the agency, and keep making decisions. Or option two, step out of the agency, stop being the bottleneck, and become an operator. Fundamentally, the things you did to get you to where you are today will not be the same things that you want to do or need to do to get you to where you want to be in the future. Your agency will grow beyond where it is today if you stop being at the center of everything. This means delegating decisions, building systems, hiring the right people, and only working with the right clients. So if you want to make this shift from doer to operator, let me know. It really begins with figuring out actually where the bottlenecks are first, and then going from there. Beyond that, if you want some help building out systems, there's this video that I put together which kind of explains there are a few key systems that I recommend most small agencies have in place to begin with. It's a really good place to start.